Well, thanks, Mary Jo. Again, I'm Scott Taylor. I'm the president of Walk On Sports Bistreaux, based here in beautiful Baton Rouge, Louisiana. I've been with the company coming up on 12 years, way before our franchising days. When we had our two locations here in Baton Rouge, and we're just looking to actually expand outside of the market into Lafayette, Louisiana, back in 2011. But I thought it'd be good to start off just tell a little bit of the history and the story of Walk On. The name, if you're a college sports fan, you probably get what a walk on is. But if you're not a college sports fan, a walk on is a athlete, non-recruited athlete, non-scholarship athlete that plays really for the love of the game and typically would play on practice squad. Our two founders, Brandon Landry and Jack Warner, were walk-ons on the LSU basketball team back in the late 90s and early 2000s. They had the last two seats on the bench. Brandon was the last seat, which he said was better because he was right next to the cheerleaders. Jack was in the seat right next to him. You know, uh, Interesting. Both high school athletes, very successful. And get to LSU. The dream of playing for a major, Division I SEC school, and we're fortunate enough, if you asked them both today, that they were able to make the team and be walk-ons and play with that squad. So the role of a walk-on really is practice squad. You play against the starters so that they're ready to play against the starters on the next road game or home game. There was never a vision for these guys in their mind that they were going to play big time during games. It's more cleanup. If they were way ahead or if they were just getting blown out, then the walk-ons would kind of get put in. In doing that and traveling around the country, visiting different towns throughout the SEC and different parts of the country, they saw that a lot of these college towns had that place to go. It was the place for sports, a great spot in Gainesville or Knoxville or Athens, Georgia. And Baton Rouge just didn't have that spot near Tiger Stadium on the campus side. They realized playing as walk-on athletes, they probably weren't going to make it in the NFL or the NBA, excuse me. They needed to come up with something else to do. So this idea of walk-ons is kind of born, having time traveling around the country. Legend has it on the way back from University of Tennessee, all the starters are sleeping and Jack and Brandon were wide awake. They started doodling on a napkin and drew out what was the original design for walk-ons, which is our current original location right across the parking lot for where I'm sitting today. And, just kind of drew this whole thing out and put the thoughts together of opening up this place, near LSU where people could go for great sports and food. Being in college, they decided to submit it as a project in a entrepreneurship class, and they got a C on the project. Kind of that walk-on mentality that the professor liked the idea. They just needed a lot of help with the business plan, and that professor offered his help if they were really serious about it, and he stuck with them and helped them with the business plan that eventually was the one they were awarded a loan with. But from that point forward, they were fortunate enough to find a great piece of land, and we love to tease them both, about that location. The original location really kind of carried them through, not really knowing what they were doing, operating a restaurant. Get the business plan together. The professor's helping out. They submit, this idea and concept to a bank. The first six banks said, "Man, I love it, guys, but you have no experience. You're young. You really don't have any money." No. This that walk-on mentality, never take no for an answer, kicked in. They went to bank number seven, and that banker met with the guys and said, "Listen, you guys are willing to bust your tail, we're willing to back you." And they awarded them a loan for the first walk-ons back in 2003. The restaurant opened in September of 2003. We actually share a property line with LSU, so you can't get any closer to campus. It really was a fantastic location then, and as luck would have it, they opened up the week before the first home game. So, not knowing how to run a restaurant, not really sure what they were doing other than we could pour, a Crown and Coke, and we knew how to turn the TVs on. They got destroyed and crushed. Super busy. The location proved that you could get people in the door, but the early on nicknames were wait-ons or walkouts because you couldn't get your food or it took too long to get someone to notice you. But that walk-on mentality kept them going, and they really endeared themselves in the community. And why I think it's important to talk about that story is that we talk about the walk-on mentality a lot as being a key part of our culture, and it is that never take no for an answer, the underdog mindset, which is really the DNA in our culture here. So persevered, figured it out. Actually opened a second location in 2008, and then even some other brands and concepts because they're entrepreneurs. They're coming up with different things, and but they found themselves in the late 2000, 2008, 2009 operating a pretty good sports bar, but they were going down that path of being a typical sports bar that if you went in there and you're watching a game, if you got really hungry, you'd order something to eat. And being in South Louisiana, the decision was like, if we're gonna say we're a Louisiana sports bar or Louisiana restaurant, we better have good food. And we like to say down here, people don't eat to live; they live to eat. And so the food had to be the hero. And so 2009, 2010, we really started working on the food and changing that concept from being a sports bar to really being a restaurant that had a sports element. Putting that in the front focus and becoming a food service, food first mentality. And so as we opened our first out of Baton Rouge restaurant in Lafayette, Louisiana in 2011, we opened a completely different menu, completely different mindset, all fresh ingredients, everything made from scratch. Food was fantastic. We opened in Lafayette, Louisiana, and done numbers that we'd never seen from a food standpoint. Where, back in the early days at Walk-Ons, the alcohol mix was probably 40, 45%, where today it's about 20% to 25%. And that's a testament to the food. Really making that change in 2011. We were voted best new restaurant in Lafayette. And then later that year, opened in New Orleans near the Superdome, we were voted best new restaurant in New Orleans, which was a much bigger deal. And I think a lot of people would agree that New Orleans is a food town. And for us to win best new restaurant, not best new sports bar, kind of told us we were on to something at that point. And so the decision was made, man, let's keep this thing moving forward like this. We really got something here where, people want to come to walk-ons and eat, and we can be busy even if a game's not on TV. And we saw that as we opened in New Orleans and in Lafayette, and then as we changed that culture and food here in Baton Rouge, um, you know, we started to take notice, right? So early 2012, we got an email from ESPN saying we were one of, gosh, I think 1,200 sports bars around the country that were nominated for number one sports bar in North America. We're like, man, that's awesome. We're 1,200. That's cool though. At least it was a nice mention, right? Then we made the top 100, and that was really cool. We even to the point we were going to put together a logo that said top 100 sports bar in America. We didn't think we'd win. We were going against the big dogs, and then we made it to the final five, which was crazy. And then shortly after that, online voting and just fan support, we won the award in 2012. And when ESPN came out, it wasn't the fact that we had TVs and beer and all that stuff. Everybody else had that, but we had phenomenal food where you saw families, women, guys, date night. Everybody was coexisting at Walk-Ons, and it was all around the food and around the culture of inclusion, that people could come and have a place to hang out, but you didn't have to give up something. If you're going to go to a sports bar, let's eat before we go. Or if you're going to go to a restaurant, like, man, we're missing the game. You could do all that at Walk-On. So that really was what convinced us we had something here. And then, shortly after that, Drew Brees, who's a household name, but at the time was quarterback for the Saints. He is a god in Louisiana, reached out and just had taken notice of us. He'd been to the restaurant with his teammates several times and heard we were considering franchising and just said, hey man, I want to be part of this, not, a Drew Brees deal. I want to write a check. I want to buy in. I want to be part of this company. And so in, late 2014, early 15, Drew Brees bought in 25% of the franchisor or the holding company at the time. So, and is still an owner today. So that's kind of where we got going in the history of the brand. But, as we started talking about franchise and looking at what we're going to do, we had this pretty, complicated model and brand of all this food made from scratch, 80 item menu, and I'd had a franchising background prior to Walk-Ons. Drew was a franchisee with several brands. We said, man, if we're going to do it, let's be a different franchisor. Let's take all the question out of it for a franchisee joining the brand. Let's put all the support in place on the front end, where typically a franchise system waits till scale. As the royalties come in, they can start to add the resources to help franchisees be successful. And a lot of times those early on franchisees, the legacy franchisees, are the ones that get the least support, and kind of always have this discontent because they see the later on guys that get the additional resources. So we did the exact opposite. We stacked the deck. I think we had 35 people on our support office when we opened our first franchise location number 7. We had 5 times as many people on our support office as we did restaurants. And then just continued building on that. I think just last year, Mike, we passed the number of restaurants versus the number of people on our support staff office. So, we've always hired ahead of the need, knowing that culture was an important part of the business. And that's kind of how we operate today. So that's really the story. That even, Mike joining our team here earlier this year is like somebody to help drive development. That wasn't a sales guy, that wasn't trying to, get someone to be part of a brand just so we could sell units. This is it's an expensive brand, it's a big brand, but it has a lot of things moving and going on, and it's not for everybody. So having somebody that understood not only the franchise model, but understood, us, we understood him, we got along, and he could help tell this story, as we grow the brand.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks, Scott. I mean, that's absolutely why I'm excited to be here. My name is Mike Wooten, and I'm new on the walk-ons team, on the development team, but I've been in franchising for quite some time, and I'm just super excited to kind of come in and take what kind of the story that Scott just gave you and continue to try to expand and grow on it as we're kind of at that kind of tipping point where this brand is about to explode into the national kind of psyche, so to speak. The restaurants themselves just absolutely doing fantastic. In 2021, we closed with 27% positive same-store sales growth over 2020. Our AUVs are over $5 million average. We're continuing to be number 1 on the entrepreneur list for sports bar franchise, and things are really starting to kind of spin up and give us the opportunity here to get walk-ons, restaurants, sports bistros in every major market around the U.S. And right now, that's kind of what I've been tasked with is continuing to figure out how do I find great candidates that understand our brand, like Scott mentioned, and understand what we do and how we do it and how it impacts the communities for the owners and where they want to put their restaurants.
Mike, I just want to jump in real quick on the major markets. What we found is high success in tertiary markets where you'll see walk-ons locations in Oxford, Mississippi, with a population, of around 50,000, or Opelika, Alabama, Lakeland, Florida. And so as we like to grow into the large cities, our strategy has kind of been to take the small bites from the outside, work those smaller markets, and eventually drop a flag in a big city. But, we play very well when we're the big dog.
Yeah, that's a cool way to do it. And that's, a lot of brands have gone that way, kind of nibbled on the edges, big fish, small pond scenario, get the brand kind of some cachet in the market, and then kind of move into the more traditional areas that might be a little bit tougher too on the real estate side of things. So those are some of the things I think we'll continue to do. But in general, the walk-ons that are in development are kind of in that southeast and southern markets, and there are countless markets that we can move into that I think the brand will really shine in. And bringing that taste to Louisiana, Scott, I think out of Louisiana is a unique piece of what we can do from a menu standpoint. You could probably speak to that a little bit about how sales have really popped in some of the markets that don't traditionally have access to great Cajun cooking.
Yeah, so that it's a point of differentiation, and it's funny when we first opened out of Louisiana. One of the initial questions was, "Are you going to change the menu?" And we're like, "No, we're not going to change the menu." And I mean, I hope not. And then as we opened up in Lubbock, Texas, and Fayetteville, North Carolina, and these markets where we really didn't have the brand recognition, Louisiana cuisine is number one. And our menus maybe 20-25% Louisiana cuisine, but that's what sells the most in those markets because they don't have it or they don't have it with quality.
Right.
So, it's been something that we definitely see as a point of differentiation moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, I live in North Carolina, just to kind of let you know, and it's like, you get that taste of Louisiana, and people will drive and come see it, and you add that sports layer and the family environment to the mix, and you've got a winning combination.
Yep. So, growth wise, Mike, we are pretty much centered in Mid-South, but our growth this year and our pipeline is about 20 to 25 locations a year, really for the foreseeable future. But we'll be in markets in Missouri and Kansas this year. We are looking at sites in Nebraska and Indiana, and continuing to fill in the markets, Oklahoma this year. And so that Midwest market we think is ripe for walk-ons. We think there's tremendous opportunities and growth in the upper Midwest, in Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, sites we're looking at in the Dakotas. So we just, once again, we think the brand travels well. And it's something that, I think the part with Louisiana has something to do with that because it's just unique. But the culture at walk-ons is something that has really kind of sustained us when COVID hit, and a lot of restaurants kind of put a note on the door and said, hey, come get your last check or call this number. We had to furlough people like everybody else, but we made sure we fed them every day. We made sure we kept in touch weekly as to what was going on and hired back as many as we could, as we did philanthropic things in our community with furlough kitchen or relief kitchen. We tried to get as many people back to work as we could. So when the time came, we could reopen dining rooms, and COVID was starting to, not be as aggressive as far as restrictions go. We had no issue hiring staff and getting people to come back. And we're still in that position today where we see a lot of other restaurants close certain days of the week or not able to operate at capacity. We're at full capacity across 64 locations today that are open. Because of that culture and kind of how we treated our people.
Yeah, Scott, tell us a little bit about the Walk-On's Way and kind of how that kind of works into selecting and finding great franchise partners, and what we will be out looking for from a franchisee perspective, and kind of how our culture, how those marry up to what we're looking for from an entrepreneur.
Yeah, so I think culture is key. I mean, this is a great investment, right? I think you can look at the numbers, you can look at AUVs, you can look through the FDD and go, man, this looks solid. But you've got to be a fit for this brand, and it's not a brand where you just put the sign up and there's your $5 million AUV. Right. You've got to be involved in the business, and if it's not you as the investor, we want to make sure you hire that person and bring in a operating partner that can be that person and be the mayor of the town. But we like to call it kind of an entrepreneur, where an entrepreneur goes out and does their own thing. Now, that's not a great franchisee. You've got to be an entrepreneur where you're willing to have that entrepreneurial spirit, take charge of your own business, but work within a system and processes within a franchise organization. So, do you get us? Do we get you? Do you want to be in the restaurant business? That's a big thing. I think it looks great from the outside, but it's a lot of hard work. But I think we all feel it's very rewarding. It's something that we're all passionate about. And, in our culture, we call it the Walk-On's Way. And that culture is something that, starts at the top, with Brandon, the founder, our CEO, myself, and we talk it every day. But it kind of goes back to the underdog mindset, being a walk-on the team, sitting on the bench, being told no. Restaurant teammates are a lot like that. They're not expected to do great things. And so we really believe we're more than a restaurant. We really believe we bring people together outside of just great food and great beverages, that we're a place where not only a team can hang out. That's why we do well with staff. But our customers see that. They see the things we do in the community. They see the way we take care of our people. And it's a point of differentiation outside of food, price, product, buildings. The culture is really what sets us apart.
Yeah, and as a new member of the team, I can tell you that I felt that, only starting in the spring and just being kind of worked into into the community, into the family of walk-ons. It's an amazing place. When you get inside those four walls, it's definitely something you can kind of feel and touch. So it's something that is unlike anything I've ever seen before from other large brands I've worked with in the past. It's a pretty neat place.
Yeah, and I think why be a franchisee? Why not just do your own
Mhm.
thing? But you're part of a franchise system. Part of you want the intellectual property, you want the processes and systems, but you want the collective wisdom and knowledge and we really are a family, and our franchise partners are our family. They're our partners in many ways, and so being able to share best practices, hold each other accountable, have real conversations, not have conflict. We look at the franchisee as our customer here. The franchisee's customer is their management team, and the management team is their hourly team, and then it gets down to the person who's ordering a bowl of gumbo. So understanding that our role is to be the best franchisor possible and bring the right people together. It's very unique. Like I said, for us, we love the franchise model. We think franchisees operate better than if we were trying to open in North Carolina. We'd rather have a guy like Mike who lives there, has a circle of influence. He's going to be much more successful there than we would. So
That's good.
franchising is great for us.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think of anything else we want to say to wrap it up, but I mean, I feel
So the
like,
territories, Mike, pretty open.
yeah, I mean,
You're the guy to reach out to, right?
yeah, absolutely. We'll make sure all of our contact information is available, and you can get a hold of me anytime, any place. But territory wise, really just building out from our kind of base in the South. We're looking for groups that are interested in, Virginia, up into the Midwest. A lot of great opportunities up there. And then we're also kind of starting to stretch out to the West as well. We opened our first restaurant in Las Vegas a couple of months ago on the Strip there in the Harrah's Casino. So we've opened up in Arizona as well. So we're moving from Texas and kind of heading out that direction as well. So a lot of opportunity. I mean, we can sit here and name markets that make a lot of sense all day, but best thing to do is if you have an interest, just reach out to me and let's just start the conversation and see where it takes us.
I would say we're interested and happy with single restaurant operators. This is not a brand where you got to come in and
Yep.
commit to doing 2, 3, 5 locations. I'm really just opening one restaurant and doing it right is an accomplishment, and so you can do that and then go from there. Right? There's always going to be a place, and there's always a way to kind of grow, but we don't have a crazy requirement that makes you not only want to be a franchisee, but commit to opening 3 to 5 if you don't have the plan or the infrastructure to do it.
Yeah, I mean, Scott, like perfect example was the group we just had in that was interested in the Atlanta market that's working kind of some of the edges around Atlanta, and they were, financially able to do more than one, but they said, let's do one. Let's make sure we get the operations down and learn the system. And then I said, we'll come back and we'll chat about it a year from now once you're up and running, and we'll continue to grow. So that's something that doesn't have to be agreed to now to say, I need to know where my 5, 6, 10 restaurants are. We can get you in with one, make you successful there, and then grow from there.
Yep, exactly. So we appreciate y'all taking time to listen and learn about our walk-on story. We're excited about our brand, our growth, and we think it's a great opportunity for anyone who's looking to be in the restaurant business. I think we're the cool cats, with some great food and a lot of white space ahead. So
yep, give us a holler. Give us a holler. Let's chat.
All right. Thanks, guys.
All right. Take care.